reviewing an episode that uses the same sound packs I was using when I was making Quake levels when I was in high school. It's Feature Please, a heinous trip at Warp 5. My name is Joseph.
Well, hey there. I just finished watching what I can say is my favorite episode of Star Trek Enterprise. I'm your co-host, Peter.
This was like made in a lab specifically for you.
And of all of the episodes of Star Trek for us to watch, immediately following up doing a review of The Reanimator, man, it's just back-to-back horror. What a treat. What a treat.
I remembered the plot points, but I did not remember the production detail. And that was a joy to behold in full HD in the fashion that I was able to enjoy it. But I
we're
think
talking joy and treats. You know what the opposite of that is, Joe?
If I know you well enough, Peter, it's being spoiled. It's the thing you hate the most.
Fucking spoilers, man. Life in 2023 is a goddamn minefield if you are anywhere near pop culture. And, you know, sometimes you get lucky and you watch shit that nobody cares about anymore, like Voyager or Enterprise. And even Voyager really had a renaissance where I had to like try to avoid things. But like, God forbid if you're watching Game of Thrones before it turned into complete dog shit, if you're trying to watch Mandalorian, which I'd love to tell you my Mandalorian spoiler story, which was, you know, epic.
Feel free to. If you think it's good grist for the mill, we can go through it.
I mean, you know, Mandalorian's coming out. It's the end of season 2, which if you have not watched The Mandalorian, which I don't believe any of our listeners possibly could not have, there's a huge cameo at the end that is so powerful, it probably brought 86% of the viewer base to tears, literally, right?
Yeah.
The episode comes out available for streaming, 3 a.m. or whatever. I have plans to get home and watch it with my wife like at 7 o'clock. And by 4 o'clock, the fucking Google News feed, if you swipe left from the home screen on Android, right there at the top was like Den of Geek. Hey, here's the CGI effects used to bring character X back and how he felt about it and this and that. And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? And like, a lot of shit happens on the internet, and I'm old. I've steeled myself against it, right? I don't usually wig out, but man, I went on a fucking warpath. I took Den of Geek, I permanently blocked them. I MF'd them on Twitter with like millions of other people, and I blocked it from every other thing I could find possible. And ultimately, their algorithm stunker. The fact they would put that as like the picture to associate with the article, but really Google is the culprit.
Yeah. Yeah, Google scooped that up because a lot of people were searching it. And then they put it in everyone's face because it doesn't understand spoilers. Right.
Right. So I want to pivot this now because the other part of this is all going to boil down to us talking about Picard. I haven't watched it yet. I didn't even know if I wanted to watch it. And luckily for fuckface Alex Kurtzman, his lackey, Terry McGillis or whatever his name
Terry
is.
Matalas, yeah.
Matalas. Was able to give him an 11th hour win before his contract expired. We've decided we want to watch this thing, that we're going to do some sort of review on it. Now I've got this fucking sword of Damocles. I already had 3 major things spoiled, and that's with me not looking at all.
Yeah.
Searching anything.
With this conversation came up between the two of us because I knew, knowing Peter as well as I do, particularly in his media consumption habits, I knew he really didn't want to be spoiled. And people were getting real loose and real naughty with their YouTube titles to get clicks because this show took off. The ratings for week 4 came out, and this is Paramount Plus's only second show to make the top 10 ever.
Very low bar, to be fair.
Low bar because the service is pretty new, but it is doing better as in terms of a trajectory than their Yellowstone prequel that had Helen Mirren and Harrison Ford in it. So it's become a big deal and it's grown larger. And I'm just like, oh Jesus, this shit's gonna. I can't imagine how much Trek shit is in your algorithm. It's just gonna fucking throw it in your face at some point if you're not careful.
And it leaves me with this conundrum, and it's like, okay, I have to fight this creeping tide of DS9 spoilers. If I do want to watch Star Trek videos at this point, I open an incognito tab and watch so it doesn't like pick it up in my algorithm. I don't want to get to a point where I'm like saying, I'm not interested, like thumbs downing and like saying, I'm not interested in Star Trek as a whole, which I almost got to that point with it presenting Picard season 2 stuff to me, which is just complete garbage.
Oh yeah.
And I was happy to write, I wanted to write Picard off completely. And it's only because, you know, everyone in the world is on one knee blowing season 3. I'm considering it. But, you know, we all know that spoilers are out there. It's a major hassle. It's a gun to your head to go out and watch this stuff real time, which I'm sure the streaming services love. You know, I had fucking Force Awakens spoiled for me. I'm like, I'm not watching any trailers. I'm not reading reviews, whatever. I went in there knowing nothing about that movie. And as I put my foot on the curb to the movie theater, someone's like, I can't believe Kylo killed his dad. And it's like, instantly I know it's going to be fucking Han, right? Like,
Right.
I should have hit the fucking guy at the time, knowing now that that
Could you imagine
trilogy.
just coming out of the theater and you're having a loud conversation about the movie you just watched, and then you say that, and you like look up and meets eyes with you as you're considering physical harm?
I think if I would have punched him too, his friend should have been like, yeah, buddy, you
Yes.
just
Yeah.
like.
No, that's fine. You should have accepted. Been like, takes his glasses off. Like, go ahead. Yeah. No, I earned
Luckily,
this.
luckily, the Kennedy sequel trilogy was garbage in the end, and
Yeah.
nothing of value was
Nothing of
lost.
value was lost.
The culprit here is Google. They're the one pushing all the stuff at you through YouTube, through targeted ads with AdSense, Google News feeds, this and that. I use Android, so certainly I'm in deep with them. You pivot around, you got Chat GPT and you've got Google Bard. Oh, look at our new AI technology and fake audio. And, you can make the Pope playing fucking StarCraft or whatever. Here's all these art thievery. We've got an intelligent chatbot that's just going to completely fucking bleed your grandma dry of whatever money she has left once all the Indian call center scams get a hold of it, and some robots willing to sit there and talk to the elderly for 6 hours until they finally get credit card numbers out of them. Pivot this AI technology. Give me something in Google where I can say, this is a shit I care about. Please block that from my newsfeed so I don't get it spoiled. That's AI technology I can get behind. That's going to add genuine quality of service improvements to people's lives. But you know what? That's not going to up the ad clicks. So you're never going to see that come to fruition.
I don't know if you'll never see it come to fruition, because if they create an AI that is smart enough to be able to understand the concept of popular culture media spoilers, that it's in their interests to have that be functionality you can access, because then you'll be directed towards different things that will keep you engaged in the algorithm and in the content mill.
Relabel Bard to Goalie. Make it a $5 a month service, and Goalie will block all media content that you're trying to be unspoiled on from your feeds. And there's a subscription I can get behind. That's more valuable to me than fucking World of Warcraft, and that's still what, $15?
That's very true. It is.
Okay. There's your free product research focus group information, Google. And I know you're listening.
I mean, we are putting it on their platform. They have every right to.
And that's something else I was thinking about too. JK, Jonathan, he did an animation for his season 8 of Voyager.
Yeah, with AI voices.
Which he said he paid like $1,200 for that clip. And it sounded good. I mean, you've got Kate Mulgrew's voice all over 8 seasons. And I'm sitting there like thinking, man, just boost people's voices out of TV shows. And there it goes. And I'm like, oh, fuck. As someone who personally has hundreds of hours of me talking.
Fortunately for us, we're not important. So the concept that someone would impersonate us for gain of some kind seems distant.
You say that, and then someone takes a picture of you and cuts your eyes out and has like cat turds shooting out and makes a meme out of it or whatever. And you're like, oh, that's my Facebook photo profile picture. And someone's made me lick a dog's butt or something. It'll happen, Joe. It's just a matter of when.
I don't want to be famous, but what I do want to talk about is this episode of Star Trek we watched. What was it, Peter? What was this masterpiece?
Season 3, episode 5, Impulse. First aired October 8th. Why not hold out? I mean, this is really well placed, I guess, if you're trying to rev people up for Halloween. October 8th, 2003. Teleplay by Jonathan Fernandez, story by Jonathan Fernandez and Terry
Terry
Matalas.
Matalas. It's your boy.
Well, directed by David Livingston. And normally, Livingston gets the job done, and he gets the job done fast and efficient. But I've never looked at anything that David Livingston has done across Voyager or Enterprise and been like, man, this was fancy. There is something, there's style here.
Yeah.
And this certainly broke that mold.
This is unlike any other episode of Star Trek I think we have ever watched together. It is deeply cinematic. It is a zombie movie. We watch a short zombie film. Just the claustrophobia at work in how they managed to sell their premise and combine that with ambient noise choices, musical choices, action. It takes a level of craft that I agree. David Livingston's kind of a worker. I did not have him having this level of touch and artistry in him, but I feel like that is conveyed.
There's a lot more at play than just fancy cinematography, too. It's a solid ass story, and it's not a fancy story, but it is an airtight story. And there's stuff I started criticizing early in the episode that by the end I was like, man, no, that all had to happen. Like,
the fact that Terry Matalas wrote this actually, like, and how tight it is, it's similar to some of the things he's been able to do in Picard. I see his touch now.
Take was it Regeneration? That's the Borg episode.
Yes, it was.
Everything I said about how they could have just did an entire horror movie episode.
Yeah.
And here it was.
Yep. This is what this would look like.
Whatever anybody out there might have said, like, no, you can't do it. Like, you could have. These dudes, this episode, yeah, I mean, that was the scariest fucking thing I think we've seen. Whatever horror or suspense or thrill you were supposed to get off of Species 8472?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Mewtwo's? Yeah, well, yeah. This threw in the trash, and I think short of like early Borg encounters where they're taking Picard and like really, cue who. Yeah, and this thing just wiped the floor with it.
I don't think it's close. I mean, it's certainly the most effective use of the horror genre within Berman era Trek to date. I can't think of anything in TNG or DS9 that comes close.
All the characters portrayed well.
Yeah.
Nobody seemed unreasonable. All of the character roles and actions were given to the actors like, hey, I know you can do this stuff. Go ahead and do it. I think the only kind of weak link through this was some of T'Pol's outbursts. I don't know if Jolene Blaylock was really sticking, but I'm willing to give her some leeway on it.
I felt like they didn't know exactly how to modulate that. And so she came off stronger in some scenes than she did near the end when she's just kind of like being pulled along. And it's like there should have been a ramp up, right? Like there should have been more intensity as time went on with her madness, but instead it sort of like petered out so that they could do action, which valid choice. All of that was great. But I think the greatest compliment I can give it is Reed even held his gun like he meant it. Like,
I'll get into Reed. Don't worry about that.
This was a tough extraction mission. Reed got several ranks up.
Yeah.
We have very quick teaser. According to the Memory Alpha, the quickest in Star Trek history. 18 seconds. And it is Archer bringing T'Pol into sick bay, and she's flipping the fuck out. She's got growths. She is trying to break out of restraints, and she screams, and they cut to, it's a long road.
So they start the intro. Yeah, straight to the point. Real shaky cam, real neurotic tension builder. And I mean, we've done stuff like this before. Like, oh, so-and-so's acting goofy. The real criticism in this episode is the god-awful makeup they put on Scott Bakula.
His head wound makeup? Yeah, not good.
It's not head wound. It's just a scratch. There's nothing to get hard for there, trust me. But it's just, Dracula Vile Blood from Spirit Halloween
Yeah, I've
strips.
literally seen you do this effect better.
Yes, on joke Johnny Creed.
Yes, on your joke LARP character.
But they start the season 3 intro, and my wife just happens to be in the room, and instantly she starts laughing. She said, "Oh, what's this? Is this new? Did they update this? Is this a modernized?" And this is a quote, by the way. "Is this a modernized intro for today's rodeo clown? It's so spunky."
You're just mad you lost the vote. You're trying like Casey could have voted. She's on the
No,
Facebook
she
group.
can't vote because of stupid fucking voting rules would have prohibited. And I said, okay, well, joking aside, do you legitimately think that this is worse or better? And she's like, I think it's better just in that like they're embracing that it's a trash intro and they're just trying to make it as bad as they can. So now it feels like a joke intro. And I'm like, it sounds like Full House. She's like, that's exactly what it sounds like is Full
Yes,
House.
it does. I still think it's better.
So I also want to say that when they've got to Paul and they're bringing her in to sick bay and they're trying to pin her down, and she is thrashing and kicking. She's fucking pissed. She's going wild. You're trying to kill me. I don't trust you. No, no, no. Head left and right, and just don't let them put that near me. Don't let them. There's a hypo spray. She's gonna hit him in the neck. You don't know this, Joe, but I'm talking to all my adult uh, parents out there who listen. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you have not seen this scene, just take the picture of T'Pol's face and put it on your own child when you were trying to use a snot sucker on him. And for anybody that's not a parent, a snot sucker is like a cylinder tube with a hose coming off of it and a mouthpiece, and you jam the tube in a toddler's snotty ass nose and you suck and you pull snot out of their nose into this tube. And they act like you've got a fucking power drill and you are going for the brain. And that's exact her portrayal there is a 1-for-1 ratio recreation faithfully. I wonder if Jolene Blaylock was actually a parent at this point and she was just
I've never even heard of the snot sucker. This is horrifying. This
yeah,
is
the picture on the
horrifying
snot sucker, it's a real cute, happy drawing, and it's like a happy mom, and she's got the snot sucker, and she's doing the baby, and both the mother and the child are both smiling, and that is absolute bullshit.
It's a lie. It's a horrific lie.
It's a fucking horrific lie.
Well, they do finally get the snot sucker, and by that I mean the sedation into T'Pol, and they're all taking a second to breathe after having to wrestle the super strong Vulcan into the biobed.
A side effect of like the crazies going on here, it needs to be that like Vulcans take a -5 to strength.
Yeah, that's what happens when you put in that new racial template for the fact that you got converted into a zombie.
Yeah, like that fucks with the electrolytes or something.
Eh,
After credits, we get a flyby of the Enterprise, and I don't know what happened, but that Enterprise CG that they're rocking fucking pops. That is the
Yeah,
highest resolution I've seen. Was there anything in the Memory Alpha about them getting like new CGI money?
there was a lot about the sets in this episode, but I didn't see anything about the CGI on first glance.
If I didn't know any better, I'd say someone had gone through and remastered that. That's how out of place and how good that looks. And there were several exterior shots at Enterprise that look super good. And then towards the end of the episode, there's one final exterior shot, and it's like back to like fuzzy 480p.
Yeah, there were a couple other shots that I felt like really did well in HD, and maybe that's just because someone took the extra time on them and allowed them and developed the detail, even though they knew it wasn't going to show up on a standard def. They were thinking ahead more of like, oh, someday it's going to be on DVD. I want it to look
Someday
fucking
someone's gonna be
good.
comparing this to Reanimator. We better pull out all the stops.
So, but yes, I agree. It did pop, and the whole episode's visual effects are pretty good because they are going to be spending their time in a asteroid field, classic space hazard. And so we got a lot of CG action that's going to come across, and most of it's pretty good for the era. It's pretty good. Is it great? No.
Great for especially for TV.
Yeah, it's batting above average here. So the actual episode goes one day earlier. So we're now back to where everyone is not crazy and having to be wrestled into a biobed. Trip and Archer are in the the command center. They're talking over findings from the Zindi ship that they captured a few episodes back, trying to get more information about the subspace anomalies that they keep running into. And there's a discussion about maybe we need to initiate movie night because the crew's skipping meals, they're stressed, and yeah, we're on a mission here, but we got to have some amount of relief, or people aren't going to be at their best, and they're going to be running their engines a little too hot.
That's interesting side commentary too. I mean, think about after 9/11, how long it took for you to allow yourself to enjoy entertainment again.
It took a while. It took a while. I think both entertainers and the citizens in general struggled for when it was going to be okay for laughter.
But then in walks T'Pol, and she's like, well, what's going on here?
She's a little put out that they were working without her. But ultimately, we again, continuity. Trip was up late because he can't sleep. And as they talk over potential of doing movies, that's when they get a call from Hoshi and on the bridge saying they have found a transponder for a Vulcan vessel. And in fact, they're also picking up an automated distress call. They can't reach them. They can't actually talk to them, but they're getting the "we are in danger, repeat" type of message from them. And it's a Vulcan ship called the Saleya.
Saleya is a known quantity. T'Pol gets on comm. She verifies the transponder signal, and she goes, I know this is correct. As it turns out, believe it or not, I just so happen to have served on the Saleya. It was my final posting before I was assigned to the Vulcan Enclave on Earth, which little too convenient. I think a way to work that would have been like, yeah, I've worked on this class before, because ultimately the goal in this is to give T'Pol a reasonable knowledge of the layout of the ship. So when they bring her in with the away team, she's got like inside knowledge, but
I think it's also so that she knows these people personally, and they pay that off with the scene in the sick bay.
Yeah, and since they did go that direction, I would have liked to see, once she loses control of her emotions, to start crying for her dead friends and like give you that insight to like, what are the Vulcans hiding? What might she be harboring for her own crew? Like, that was my crew, that was my family I cared about. Whatever. Fucking drops in the bucket compared to the greatness of this episode. So Archer gets pulled off of his Jack Bauer 24 adventure, goes, all right, well, land a course, and the episode doesn't say anything about it, but if you're into season 3 episode 5 of Enterprise, you've probably been there since no, actually, you know what, you probably weren't there since
you were there from the beginning, but there's very few of you left.
Or in your case, someone said, no, man, it gets good in season 3.
Yeah, or you just joined this program already in progress.
Anybody I ever talk to and say you should watch Enterprise, it'll be starting with
The Expanse. Yeah,
The Expanse. So maybe you didn't know. Yeah, no, in The Expanse, that does have Suval going, stay the fuck out. That is bad.
Yeah. Watch the pilot, watch Expanse, and then watch this, and that does actually give you the context.
This is a no-go zone for Vulcans. It turned Klingons inside out, anatomically inside out, and we have ships in there, and it turned into Event Horizon. This is a fucking bad time. So a Vulcan transponder distress code going off, Archer knows, and T'Pol knows. And would anybody else know? Was anybody else in the briefing?
No, it was just the two of them.
I mean, he would have had to share that info with his team.
I don't think that it's a secret that happened. I'm just saying that's who was in the scene.
Sure. But, I mean, maybe Archer did hide it, and that would have been good to explore, too, is like, nah, I didn't want to spook the crew. And then it's like, I think we should have known that Klingons were turned inside fucking out, and we were in, the danger room over here. But if you're watching the show, this distress call, you're not going to find happy, well-adjusted people. Like, you're going into Raccoon City.
The show has warned you this could be very bad already.
Before they said that was a ship I served on, there was part of me that was kind of like, okay, cool. So there's Vulcans there. We know that Suval said we don't go in there anymore. Like, I was kind of hoping that this was going to be the Vulcan
Cenobites.
Cenobites who were like, hey man, we're just exploring our feelings and learning the illegal thoughts and occasionally like psychic raping people, but you know, we weren't really trying to push that angle during our initial introduction. Like maybe there was going to be some nefarious angle there, but no, this is straight up Vulcan Science Directorate. No, that's
I mean, it's
Vulcan High
Vulcan High
Command, right?
Command.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's Vulcan High Command, and it's their ship, and it got trapped. And then the other ship where the discount Event Horizon happened was the ship that was sent to find the Saleya. So this thing has been packed in. Yeah, that's what they
Mm,
said. Was you already know what happened to the ship we sent to try and find these guys after they got trapped in here?
no.
Yeah, I am correct.
Soleil one was mapping the outside of
Yes, and
the
that was the
cloud,
Saleya, and that was the Saleya.
and they got caught in an eddy and sucked in.
Correct. And the other ship where we got the transmission, that was the Event Horizon ship. And that was the one that just touched madness. So there's even more, oh, this thing could be a real bad time.
This is going to be actual Event Horizon, or you know,
Yes.
some version of the danger zone.
So they arrive and they get to the asteroid field we already mentioned. And so of course they're going to have to take a shuttle in.
Now, there's asteroid fields that you usually see in Star Trek, which is rocks floating out in space. And then there's the asteroid field in season 3, episode 5, Impulse, that is the Thunderdome of asteroid fields, where it is just every asteroid. They took all the asteroids in the sector, they put them all together, and they said, listen, there's a $6 million lottery ticket to whatever asteroid is left not smash the fuck up. And I don't know what an asteroid would do with $6 million, but by God, these asteroids want it. They are going
They
ape
were
shit.
in they're at the punk show in the pit. You know, they're just jamming into each other.
Take the whatever the last revision they did to which it was it Star Wars New Hope where they land and then the worm pops out and tries to eat the Falcon, right?
No, that's Empire Strikes Back.
Is it? Okay, so like, whatever like the most remastered version is, where like they've got the real good asteroids and it's like white knuckle TIE fighters flying around. Like that's this level asteroid. Actually, it might even been a little bit more angry than that.
And it's because of the weird subspace anomalies that this is happening. And on top of all of this asteroid field has a ton of Trillium ore. So Trip has been given the side quest to acquire as much as he can because, of course, the NX-01 is trying to synthesize the liquid form of it so that they can prevent them from being affected by these hazards, these space hazards. So it is Archer, it is Reed, it is T'Pol, and it is one of the XCOM guys, but he's one of the ones that has like some extra levels. Like he's a ranger and he's been promoted a couple times, and so he's got some extra skills. It's Corporal Hawkins.
He's also the worst guest actor they've had since Precious Cargo. This
Let's
guy
just say he's a stunt guy. You know,
should not have had fucking lines. He
no.
was awful, awful, awful. This shuttle pod away team mission going into the most dangerous asteroid field we have ever seen in Star Trek, and the fact that fucking Travis Mayweather was not behind the stick was infuriating. And I was ready to just crucify this episode. Be like, I get Jonathan Archer's Mary Sue fucking background, and he's the best at everything, whether it's warp 5 engine warp theory and star charting and water polo and
Dog ownership.
I mean, if he trained Porthos, I'll give him that one. That's a fucking solid. It's an expensive merit, but okay, you know, I'm a great test pilot. Like it needed to be Mayweather, and I was insulted that they didn't give Mayweather his chance in the spotlight. Again, the B plot of we need Trillium D and involving him to the degree he does there makes up for it. Like there's,
Yeah, they eventually give him hotshot pilot the asteroid belt moments.
but I'm
They
going to
just
tell you right now, I'm salty. I didn't get to see super yoked Mayweather fucking gang tackle some Vulcan zombies in this episode.
He needed to be there because he needed to replace the XCOM guy as the
Yes.
dude who can't act but can also body fools.
And I'm telling you, when Mayweather's beating people up, the acting doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
he could have been the fucking guy in the party that doesn't even have a gun. He's just smashing heads into fucking corners and taking one guy and hitting two other guys with the first guy.
Corporal Hawkins represents, though. This guy is not an actor, but he looks like a Marine and he does his job very well. He ain't got time to bleed.
Corporal Hawkins' real value add to this episode is that he is so awful in his acting that the probability he is going to die is so high, you're just waiting for it. And you're like, gosh, are they going to kill this guy? Especially by the end, like when he has to go across the pit and you're like,
this is it. This is the moment where the red shirt dies, right?
This is why this guy's going to get fucking sacked by a zombie horde and fall 15 decks to his death, and even squeaks by on that. And like right up to the very end, I'm like, something like Resident Evil the movie, like that liquor is going to shoot its tongue through the window of the shuttlecraft, hit this dude in the neck, and then like rip him out the window.
And was we are skipping a bit of ahead, but yet since we're talking about him, it makes a lot of sense. The fact that Corporal Hawkins survives is the actual tension, because Reed and ToPaul and Archer are making it, right? The real question is if the fourth guy you've never seen before is going to make it. So the writers know that. It's
not the blonde girl with the see-through shirt.
Yeah.
It's not Colonel Hayes or Major Hayes or whatever his name is. This is completely brand new dude.
And this guy, is expendable. You're watching Star Trek. This is a trope that's extraordinarily well known to you. It's well known to the people who wrote it. It's well known to the people who produced it. It's well known to the people watching it. And you're waiting. You're waiting and you're waiting. And it was a brilliant subversion of expectation that he makes it through. Slightly wounded. He's going to be, he'll be back in 6 days with an extra promotion. He made it.
Side note.
He only had 2 health left, but he made it.
They just went through House of the Dead. Nobody died. They fought the Borg. Nobody died. Everything else, nobody died. Klingons. They fought Klingons. Nobody died. But some fucking... we used to be fur trader, and now we're space pirates. That's the first organization to get a solid kill on Enterprise. Come on. So they fly over through some hot shit piloting. It's cool. They go, all right, here we come. They get up on the Sela.
Yeah, the Sela, yeah.
And we get our first look at the ship. And it is fucked. It's the Vulcan like cruiser design where there's like a big ring.
Yeah, the ring warp drive in the back.
And we've seen these ships get their asses kicked before. The Tholians fucked them up back in future tense?
Yes.
But not this bad, man. Like, there is exposed hull all over the place. This is the most fucked up you've seen a ship since Voyager and like Year of Hell.
Decks that are decompressed. That's barely still functioning. It's basically just getting randomly pelted by asteroids that wander by. And it doesn't have long. And they know there's biosigns on board, but they can't seem to get anyone on the comms. So they decide to go in. When they go in to this ship, it starts by them opening the hatch and climbing up. And when I said in the opening that the background sound effects are literally like the ambient noises from Quake, that's what it sounds like back there. I don't know about you, Peter, but if I like pop out and I'm hearing like your 3 steps from a Hellmouth noises randomly in the background, hard no. This is a damned. I can hear. I have ears. We out. Get back in. Get back in the car. We're out of here.
Look at what's going. Okay, they scan the ship. They say, we've got confirmed life signs. Nobody is answering the hails. Something's weird. They dock. It's kind of a goofy docking situation, too. Like, the shuttle docks.
It uses the top hatch with the attached to the donkey clamps, which they eventually have to phaser off.
I'll discuss that victory lap later.
You're taking quite a few of those lately.
Mm-hmm. And I take no pride in it because I don't even remember what my initial assertion is. Every time the shuttlecraft's docking to a ship is presented, some zany new docking method is being employed because there's no clear Bible or anything about the design language of this ship that expresses like, this is how this thing should fucking dock. So it's just completely different every time. It is hilarious. But they dock and they crawl through the ceiling and then crawl onto the floor, out of the floor, which is so stupid. Like, it should, whatever. And I'm sure there's a reason why they did it, but it looks dumb that you're boarding a fucking ship by crawling out of the sewers like you're Ninja Turtles. But as they're crawling up out of the floor, the guns are out. You are docking with an allied vessel that is doing a distress call. Like, there's nothing, no part about this on paper where it's like, when you enter your ally's vessel, make sure that you have your guns drawn. And these aren't phase pistols. There's 2 fucking rifles and 2 pistols, and people are ready for it. I was reading up on the Makos. They said that the Marines, actually, that their technology and their weapons was several years ahead of even Starfleet, which I think is very interesting.
It makes sense because they're a military organization. They're developing their weapons as their focus.
Right.
Whereas Starfleet's trying to make engines and shit.
Sure. And it's also interesting that, like, the Makos would deploy to Enterprise on a quest to save the literal world from Xindi attack, and Mako not just be like, hey, everybody gets a phaser rifle and our good guns, forget about your goofy, ugly ass squirt guns. Over on Enterprise, we get the B plot, which may as well be actually A plot because that's how important it is. A lot of time B plot is completely divorced of anything going on A plot. This one, B plot, is needed to make the A plot work. And that B plot was, hey, they got Trellium D out in this asteroid field, which is why the Vulcans were here. While I'm gone, try and do what you can to get it. And it begins with, they show Mayweather, and I'm like, this is why Mayweather, not only was he not on the bridge when they flew up onto this asteroid, like, he must have not been working that day. Not only is he not on the shuttle pod, but now Mayweather's running the fucking transporter to try and beam asteroids onto the ship, which is a good use of the transporter. First time works good. Trip grabs it. The second time, they go for a big one.
They get hit by the subspace wave, fucks up the transporter, and suddenly you got a little industrial accident. Not one involves any bloodshed.
Sadly.
But does fuck the transporter way up by materializing pieces of a rock in it.
Dozens of pieces. It's a. I like Trip's like, well, that'll be a new one for the maintenance crew. Now that I've made a complete mess and beamed rocks into the fucking walls and emitter coils, let's just walk away. And in the process, what they're doing there is saying, you cannot use a transporter for the rest of this episode, which is so important.
Strong to take that off the table right away.
So important.
Yeah.
And they go, okay, well, we just fucked up this crucial piece of escape technology. Hey, why don't we take the only other shuttle pod and go fly into the fucking danger zone over there?
You've got
crank up your Kenny Loggins.
You have your ship's captain, executive officer, weapons officer, and one of your Marines forward deployed into an unknown situation, dealing with potentially hostile, people. You have no idea because all you know is that Vulcans didn't react well to this part of space, at least in one context. You have one other shuttle to be able to exfiltrate them in an emergency. And you're like, let's fuck around on an asteroid with it. Travis, get your EV suit. This is a terrible command decision, Trip. Why are you doing this?
At no point does anybody go, let's wait for the captain to get back. Because, once they finish whatever they're doing over there, we could spend, a week and a half mining this and,
take as much time as we need.
We don't have to do it right now while all of our exposed bits are dangling over there by a bear trap. Cut back over to the Vulcan ship.
Which I was making a joke about how they were using the sound effects. It's fucking dope in there. It is horror movie to the max. The lights, the place is completely busted up. It definitely looks like I am in level 1 of a first-person shooter that is going to be one where a lot of heavy metal music gets played. And I am going to have to deal with waves of enemies.
And level 1 of a video game is where they put the most work because everybody is going to see level 1. Not everybody sees the last level. So when you put a lot of work on that front end, and it shows in this. And I keep going back to these Borg episodes because there's nothing else that you can compare other than the Species 8472 as the scary other ship where shit is all fucked up. Nothing looks cheap, nothing looks junky, nothing looks, sci-fi original.
Yeah.
It's all solid. And they do what you do in every horror movie. They go, all right, split the team. It's going to be Archer and T'Pol, and then we're going to send off Reed and, I'm going to die guy.
They start with Archer and T'Pol. They're wandering the ship's corridors, trying to find some of the people that they're detecting with their equipment. And lo and behold, they find a door. The door is locked. They can't seem to open it, but they know there's life forms behind it. T'Pol accesses a manual release in the back. And when that manual release is pulled, the door opens. Archer receives what he's always looking for in these circumstances, that is a head wound.
Mm.
When he is greeted in the face by a very nasty tetanus-ridden club and a Vulcan who is wielding it, who has he has taken a bath in whatever the shit the Joker got put in. I guess he is sea green with like warts all over him.
Vulcan zombie, and that's what these guys are. They're zombies. Lunges forward, strikes Archer in the face, scratches him, leaving claw marks. That's not what Archer's about. Archer wants.
I think there was some impact there. There was some impact there.
Listen,
the makeup was bad, but there was some concussion force.
You don't come at Archer open-handed. That's not disco. He's not going to get a dick hard. He wants that closed hand punch. So he gets
to
a little
feel the ringing. That's how he gets hard,
Yeah, so he just gets basically insulted, and from that point forward is inflicted with the worst makeup job we've seen since the last time Archer had a half-ass head wound, which I think was that when he got sentenced and he had to be in jail? He had that little blood smear right here, and it just looked awful the whole time.
I now officially sign our Chadish to count Archer's head wounds because he is both, he is both our justice and information arbiter as well as a medical doctor. I mean, this is something he's built to do.
Let's make it easy. He only has to count the shitty ones that don't really count, like the scratch and whatever that blood smear. God, what episode was that? They take quite a few phaser blasts to bring this guy down. And that is going to become important because there are a lot of zombies on this Vulcan zombie cruise ship.
Papa Nurgle has visited these guys and given them extra toughness dice. That's a 40K joke for all of you out there. And for reals, these guys are super resilient, and we see just how resilient they are actually in our second action sequence when XCOM guy and Reed have to fight off waves of enemies using their rifles, and it is rough going. They're getting attacked from multiple angles. They are having to like literally gun these guys down in rows. Some of them get close. The XCOM guy takes an axe wound before he busts out his electric tonfa. It's
get a lot of mileage too.
Oh, it's a lot. It's like the horde is overrunning them and they are trying to beat them back.
I thought it was funny too because right after T'Pol and Archer get jumped, I'm like, why are they not immediately calling the other away team? Like, this is a real dick move. Are they just going to let Reed walk into it? And then, he did make the call. Reed is using the Mako phaser rifle. He's not even using the Starfleet phaser rifle, which looks corny and stupid. It seems like the hand phasers are almost more effective than the rifles are. But yeah, that is a long action sequence. And again, this is a great episode. The stunt coordinator on this one took the actor for Reed off to corner and said, this is the right way to hold a gun.
Yeah, this is what it looks like when you're holding a gun and you are really gunning people down.
What you've been doing out there is you're holding this gun like it's a melting popsicle that you don't want to hold, and you're trying to hold it with as few fingers as possible. All of the fingers need to be wrapped around, and you need to hold this thing like you don't want that zombie over there to take it away and shove it up your ass. And
you're flourishing. You're like it's a sword. It's not a sword. It's a gun. You have to keep it close to yourself so that you can precisely aim it and move between targets, because that's what its actual purpose is. You're being a theater actor thinking this is my weapon. I'm presenting it for people to see so that you know that I'm armed. No. Like, That's not how this is supposed to go. This is a military drama. There's a military rifle. You should treat it like a military weapon as if it were real. And this is
And he
how you
pays
do.
attention.
Yeah.
I'm also paying attention to these Vulcan zombies. The makeup looks solid. These guys look sick.
Oh
They
yeah.
look crazy. The makeup is great. The wardrobe, not so great. And the best way I can describe what the Vulcan science uniforms or whatever the fuck they're wearing. Last episode, I said, hey, the Bug Zindi bad guys are like knockoffs of the bad guy from uh, Galaxy Quest.
Yes.
The
The lizard ones are the knockoff
the
of the guy from
Vulcans
Galaxy
are
Quest.
wearing the same like plastic jumpsuits that the good aliens with the Vulcan haircuts.
That's true. Yeah, they're the blue with the silver.
And that's exactly what they're wearing here. The lighting hides a lot of it, but I bet you those were some sweaty fucking suits to be wearing if you were one of the stunt guys.
Especially because that set's so claustrophobic. So it was going to be warm no matter what they did.
So I'm loving all the zombie action. They get through, and again, Mako guy taking the arm wound and like just bleeding everywhere. Like, oh shit, this is gonna get real here. Um, Again, I'm sad that Mayweather's not involved because I would have loved to see him fucking rampage and just throwing fools.
One punch manning all of these zombies, all the zombie Vulcans. As they try to get
Looking,
he's literally got Reed's back by flailing his arms around his coiled steel.
so yeah, this is basically like Resident Evil 4 mercenaries, like where it's just wave based running around the village and gunning everybody down. This is probably the most phaser shots I've ever seen in a Star Trek,
Yeah,
including the fucking Bad Robot movies. And there's a lot of gunplay in those.
it can't emphasize enough. It is waves of enemies these guys are gunning down. And they are purposefully using stun. It actually becomes a bit of a plot point that
And here's where it happens: is they
yeah,
reconvene, and bad acting Mako guy reaches up and clicks the top of his gun. And to Paul, who's been acting increasingly squirrely, goes, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, stun's not working. It makes sense for us to switch up to kill." And she ain't having it.
she reprimands him. She is very clearly emotional. Archer steps in and also reprimands him and say, "Now we're stunning. To be clear, I don't. We're gonna try and fix whatever the fuck is going on. We all know it's fucked, but we're gonna try not to kill these people." To which he begrudgingly agrees. And when they decide to try and make their way first to the sick bay, because they got to get to the bridge. Bridge is 7 decks away, but
Uh,
but Mako guy's got an arm wound, so they got to get to the sick bay
I
to
thought they
treat
tried.
that.
Do they try to retreat first?
Well, they find each other. They try to retreat. That fails. They try to go back to the shuttle, and 2 of the zombies got there first and closed the airlock. And
So
that's what forces them to continue through the ship.
that's where we find out that these guys aren't exactly zombies. They are not in their right minds, but they are not mindless.
They certainly have their cunning.
The Vulcans block entry. They're standing over that floor hatch. They start trying to talk. Hey, we're trying to help you. We got to get to our shuttle. We want to help you. And then like zombie Vulcan flip the switch and like the bulkhead goes down. I'm sorry, the blast door goes down. The control panel shot and there's no way to get in. So now we know these guys are thinking. And also during one of those zombie waves, like one of the Vulcans had some sort of green phaser. I did see a weapon discharge there.
Correct. Yeah, one of them shows up and kind of clumsily shoots it at them.
So, it makes sense that T'Pol has hope that they are going to be able to help these guys. And, they shouldn't just be shooting people on kill. Is this where we switch over to the B plot again and see what's going on with them?
Just to wrap up, I'm not exactly sure when the next B plot beat occurs, but the table setting here is that Archer talks to DePaul and be like, "You don't seem okay," as they launch their new plan. And she says, "Yeah, like I'm starting to feel as if something about the ship is affecting me on physiological level, and I'm starting to lose the ability to govern my emotions." So she says that to Archer, like, this is happening, and you definitely need to be aware of it.
Quick side note, we did see when they entered the ship that the Vulcans had been again applying Trillium D to the interior bulkheads to try to
Correct.
insulate the ship from the nonsense. So there's a zombie wave that gets stuck in basically an elevator shaft for all intents and purposes as they barely escape. So many Vulcans are getting their hands on these guys too, and like, Vulcans have like the strength of a chimpanzee and should just be able to rip these guys' arms out of their
Yeah.
sockets. So
-5 strength. You already mentioned it.
-5, maybe even like -6.
Yeah,
That's
well,
how like silly it is.
all their strength got dumped into to Constitution. You
Hey, I
know,
like that. That's
they have more
3.5 there.
HP but less damage.
Well,
We've
so they're in the elevator shaft. They're like, listen, we got to go to the bridge. That's 7 decks up. That's going to be a hike. But Mako guy's bleeding out over here. Let's push to the sick bay instead.
correct. So for the B plot, we finally see Trip and Mayweather heading in the other shuttle pod to land on an asteroid that has Trillium on it. It's probably the best showing for Mayweather as a hotshot pilot, is him trying to get down on this asteroid, and it's tough. There's nowhere to land flat, and he ends up like skirting the edge of a little piece of it, but actually manages to get the shuttlecraft down pretty successfully without damage. And it's like, oh, don't tell anybody that I was only 95% accurate here. And he's like, bro, that was impressive. Let's get some rock.
Should have brought some extra crewmen too to like load as many rocks as possible. Whatever. They start doing it. It, I don't know at what point it happens, but just to kind of wrap up that segment, they're on the asteroid. Another anomaly hits. The flow patterns of the asteroid start to change, and now the asteroid they're actively mining is getting sucked deeper into the field and is going to be at a higher risk of colliding with other asteroids. So they wrap up their mining party, they get in the ship, and they try to fly off. Barely in the nick of time, they get out, shit's smashing all over the place, and that shuttle gets pelted with debris from colliding asteroids and picks up some really cool battle damage. So by the time they get back to Enterprise, the exterior set piece of the shuttle is just thrashed. And they're like, man, made another mess for maintenance, I guess. Ha ha ha. It's going to be hours before that one's ready. Good job, Trip, in sealing off all external escape routes for the away team. Mission completed. Chris is Albert Wesker, by the way. I'm sorry, Trip is Albert Wesker.
When they get close to the sick bay, they get attacked by another Vulcan zombie, and they stun the guy and drag him into the sick bay and lock the doors behind them. And that's when we not only is their med pack applied to the XCOM guy, they put the zombie they've recovered onto the bio bed, and Paul's trying to figure out what's going on, is becoming obviously quite increasingly agitated.
She knows this guy.
She knows this guy. This guy was the chief engineer, tries to communicate with him, and he is clearly like, they did an extra super good job on his makeup because he got close-ups. His teeth's fucked up. His gums are fucked up. It is a bad sign. And she tries talking to him, and he is clearly a mindless zombie. And I think this is when you get to Paul's kind of best moment of like, oh, this is what's happening to me. Like her panic, her fear. She's figuring out like, oh, this is real bad and it's going to be real bad for me, and I can see my fate, and I still have enough of myself to comprehend that fate, and it freaks her the fuck out. And she wigs out in a way that I really liked, which was still somewhat restrained, but also like, oh no, no.
Yeah. They, most importantly, are able to get scans off of this guy, which they will later be relaying to Phlox on Enterprise. So they leave sickbay, try to make their way up. I don't think do they get to the bridge?
They do. They do get to the bridge.
That's a small-ass bridge.
Yeah, and they ultimately, they lock all the doors, but they say, Reed says, like, that eventually they're going to get in if they want to get in. I can only keep them out for so long. And when they get up there, that's when they are able to communicate with Enterprise and let them know, yo, Trip, get the other shuttle pod and get us out of here. To which he says, yeah, that got fucked up because I went on an adventure for rocks. You're going to have to wait like 2 hours. Verger's like, well, okay, I guess fix it as soon as you can. We'll see if we can get ourselves the fuck out of here.
What do you mean you ruined our escape route? Damn it. I
Or
guess we're just gonna have to deal with the transporter. It's 12 seconds of hell. Beam us out. Yeah, I fucked that one up too. You know, you told me to like get Trillium. I thought what you meant was like take all your escape routes and smash it up with Trillium D. Moopsie daisies. And then they cue some sinister music as it zooms in on his eyes narrowing. Um, there's a scene in there where they're trying to make the broadcast and bring an auxiliary relay online or something. The smartest person on the ship, Reed, the
the
guy who
design.
invented shields, the guy who learned how to overclock phasers. Uh, he wires it up wrong, so it blows up, and we get a good outburst out of I don't know. Again, like on
I liked
paper,
what
they're
she
good
was.
outbursts, but
I
like
liked what she was doing in the bridge and in sick bay. It's as they go through the hallway that it gets weak, and it's because they peaked too early with her paranoia and her acting, and then they had another huge action sequence to go where she's basically just literally on Scott Bakula's back as he's walking through the hallways, stunned that it feels like the dramatic tension has been sucked out of the room.
we got to jump back a second because the awful acting Mako guy has some alone time with her where he apologizes like, hey, sorry, I tried setting my phaser to kill and, murder your friends. That was naughty of me. And she's like, I forgive you. And then he's like, why would people want to kill us? And we start kind of shedding some light on what's actually going on here. These aren't zombies per se. Like, there's certainly a level of physical rot going on, but what's happening, and what Phlox will later confirm with his scans, the sickness is breaking down neural pathways in the Vulcan brain that allow them to exert the level of self-control that they have. And what we're seeing is Vulcans who have been stripped of their logic and of their control, and they're acting in a primordial sense. And that
Yeah,
is,
not even personality. There's nothing restraining their violence.
T'Pol says, once upon a time, this is how we were. We were paranoid. We were psychotic. We would kill on whim. And we almost destroyed ourselves with this kind of activity. And she's, giving you a peek behind the curtain that these are just like cavemen, proto Vulcans. And
Vulcans don't have an ironclad command of their emotions because they just like it. It's that they believe, and perhaps correctly, that it is necessary. That they have to have this kind of command because they so deeply fear allowing any piece of this to emerge.
this is all good lore. This is solid. You jump back to Voyager. I think, was it the thing with Lon Suter, maybe? Tuvok, their brains are physically reinforced. They are more resilient. And when those brain muscles weaken, they start getting emotional and they start getting violent and naughty. So this is the worst case of that we've seen.
After they try to talk to Paul off the ledge as she gets in their face about paranoid delusions she's having about the away team trying to kill her, the zombies get very
Legit
creative.
though, real quick. I mean, she goes right back to season 1 and 2 Archer and is like, you hate us.
You hate
You
Vulcans. You're trying to
probably
kill us all. Yeah.
you blame us for sabotaging your dad's work. Like, you're a well-known Vulcan hater, and I see now, you were plotting behind my back. You and Trip, you were excluding me. And she starts, it's wild speculation, but it's Matalas and this other guy, using good character lore and established scenes we've already seen and stuff we know to like reinforce the accusations.
Phlox lets the away team know you can save Paul. The rest of them are already so brain rotted. No one can save them. So get the fuck out of there. And they have to take a pretty suspicious, unwilling, and increasingly angry Paul along on a harrowing trip to get to the bulkheads that they are going to unseal by cutting all of the power and shutting everything down, which will inevitably lead to antimatter containment failing and, of course, the ship exploding, but will also unlock the doors. So that's how we're getting out of here. It is essentially fait accompli. All of these guys are going to die in the explosion, but Phlox has made it clear there's no saving them except the one you've got with you. So time to go. Lost
And,
cause.
time's ticking down here too. Once they hit a point where they're like, we are going to consign this ship to death. We're going to induce a warp core explosion. I think at that point, like, okay, time to switch those weapons over to kill. We can start mercy killing people along the way, because
Yeah, if
this
we
shooting people 6, or so times, depending on our level of plot lasers. We got to quit playing around here, but they keep them on stun, and they have a pretty good run and gun. Finally, DePaul gets extra super crazy, pulls a gun on them. It's like, listen, I've shot crew members before. I would love to shoot you, John Archer, because you've certainly had it coming for a while now. They disarm her before they get a chance, and they ultimately end up doing what they should have done a while ago, and they just stun her and zap her ass out. Archer throws all 45 pounds of her over his shoulder.
all of it contained within her chest.
Yeah.
And
My wife,
what would Casey say?
my wife's like, all I see is nipples and lips.
It's true.
She started searching Jolene Blaylock and seeing like what she looked like now. She had some thoughts on the Instagram there, and I don't know what Jolene Blaylock's gone on to do. I don't know how involved she is in the con circuit, but she's certainly living a life out there.
I don't. The over a word for any women dealing with age, as we all do as time goes on. It's okay to age.
Yes.
Don't work too hard at trying to stop it. That actually is far worse.
You don't want to turn into the lady that played Catwoman.
Yeah, like don't be Eartha Kitt. Be Helen Mirren. Like age with grace. Use
Yeah.
it to your advantage. Like that. There's an appeal to that. Anyway, the key final
Set
action
piece.
sequence is a classic pit trap has appeared as a consequence of how fucked the ship has become, and they have to cross over a chasm they cannot possibly jump. Fortunately, there is a beam-sized piece of space debris that is just large enough to span this hallway that is broken, and they must get across it. And the difficulty in doing this becomes exponentially increased as not only does Archer have to take T'Pol across with a fireman's carry, then when XCOM guy tries to get across, he gets attacked from both sides by like other zombies who are trying basically to throw their bodies at him to try and knock him down. And this is when you think this is it. You're going to get a Wilhelm scream. He's going to get pulled into the abyss. It's going to be another like face for the memorial wall back on the ship. But in a massive subversion of
Hold on a
expectations.
second. Not only does he have zombies actively attacking him, but the anomalies are kicking up and the ship is breaking apart, literally. Yeah. So you have earthquakes going on too.
You have every reason to think this guy's going to hard fail.
The hallway in Galaxy Quest where there's like metal stampers shooting down and from the sides to like crush him, like that is the closest to that we have ever actually gotten in Star Trek. Like this is the most harrowing. I need to run down the hallway and not be killed in the process.
And this massive subversion of expectations is when that guy who you think is going to be the one that pulls him down goes to make the move. It's going to be him, right? Like it's framed that way. He's coming from below.
You see his face.
You see his face. You think this is it. Fucking XCOM guy, this is Sparta's the dude, kicks him down the hall and then makes his way across and actually manages to get to the extraction point. Couldn't believe it. Ridiculous. I couldn't believe it.
They get against the bulkhead. The door starts opening like, all right, now the zombie on the other side's going to like bite him in the neck. But there's no zombie there. They're just out free and clear. Like, oh, okay, wow. They all get in their shuttlecraft. They start trying to get away. Oh no, the docking clamps won't disengage.
Don't worry. Trip was managed to throw some patches on the outside of the hull fast enough to get the other shuttle pod out, and uses the shuttle pod phasers to blow the link to the original shuttle pod, and they were able to all get out of there in time.
Which we get a real up close shot on the docking hatch, whatever, which I'm all shits and grins about. Like, oh, here we go. I'm going to be right some more. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this structure is. I've never seen this thing before. Trip blows it off. I'm thinking now too, like as they were sealing off escape options, like it never dawned on Trip. Maybe we should get the Suluban cell ship out of storage and like use that to rescue the captain.
It is small. It is maneuverable. I don't think the cloaking helps you here, but it can't hurt.
Do they still have that thing? Is that going to get used again, or did they finally leave that on Earth?
I can't remember if they used that again. I'll be honest with you.
They must have forgot about it, just like everybody else had forgotten about it.
So they get back.
We get a pretty sweet flight scene as, you know, both shuttlecraft fly away from the rapidly exploding Sela, and, you know, back they go to Enterprise.
So when they arrive back, we are now post the opening, right? We are post. They have started to do treatment for T'Pol. And they talk about, like, man, we went all this trouble to do this Trillium D shit, and apparently it's going to, like, melt fucking T'Pol's brain, and we can't use it. And they're like, well, put it in the storage locker for now. We'll figure out if we can
inoculate
T'Pol
about
against
that.
this.
That's what Phlox identifies as the cause.
Yeah.
So, great plot twist here. Vulcans are allergic to Trillium D. That is poisoning them. That's what drove these guys nuts. So this ship originally was mapping the outside of the Delphic Expanse, that cloud wall. They got sucked in. They went through the same shit Enterprise did and figured out one way or another, like, hey, we're going to have to insulate our hull. Found this Trillium deposit, doing pretty good for themselves, and inadvertently poisoned the entire crew and condemned them to their wicked, evil, illogical states. And I'm assuming then also whatever ship was sent in to rescue them, if they're acting as crazy as they were, they probably encountered Trillium D as well and did it to themselves. So, like, it's not necessarily this region of space that is driving Vulcans crazy. It's proximity to Trillium D, which you need to be in this region of space.
It creates a excellent dilemma for Enterprise to have to work through. It's like, how do we deal with this particular problem of the thing we need to line our ship with is going to kill one of our crew members? They do put that off for another episode, and we get an ending that I'm glad that Memory Alpha pointed out was very reminiscent of when in First Contact, Picard has all of his Borg visions. And it's like a vision within a vision.
Well, there's a conversation between Archer and T'Pol. T'Pol's like all fucked up on the bed, and then he's like, wake her up. I want to talk to her. And Phlox is like, dude, she's sick. Like, can you not wait? No, wake her up now. So he wakes her up just so, you know, he catches her while she's being emotional. And she's like, drop me off on the nearest planet. We can't sacrifice such an important mission for you guys. No, I'm not doing that to a crew. And then he walks away. And in my mind, I'm counting the fact that she was woken out of her, like, induced coma. Like, that's why she suffers this next part, is because Archer needed to talk to her. This episode feels super long, by the way. I lost your audio. I don't hear you.
It's because it's so dense. There's not a wasted moment.
No.
And so it feels long. You know what I mean?
So I figured we're done here, and there's like another 4-minute action sequence waiting for us.
Yeah.
It's T'Pol getting called to the bridge. There's a shadowy figure running around, and I'm like, okay, is she like in transporter crazy time now? Opens up to the bridge, fucking zombies attacking her, her old crew trying to get her, trying to bite her. I'm like, oh man, what's a deeper meaning here? Finally, she wakes up. Phlox is like, hey, chill out, but it's not Phlox, it's another fucking zombie. Like, she wakes up from a zombie hallucination to another zombie hallucination.
Yeah, straight out the scene from First Contact. And it's
finally sees Phlox. Phlox is like, it's okay, you're safe. Gives her a hug or whatever. And I'm like, okay, what's the deeper meaning here? And they just cut to credits. It's just like, this is a horror episode. We're just trying to get some extra horror in before we have to absolutely drop it. And I'm like, and that's David Livingston. That's why this thing feels so long. David Livingston can bang out a fucking episode to the point where, like, they have to come up with extra shit. They have to come up with fucking Reed's overclocking phasers. And that's probably what this was too. Like, I don't know. We finished the zombie episode too early. What do we do? Throw some more zombies. I don't know.
Do something else. Create some more horror. Be creative. Whatever. You got 4 minutes to fill. Go at it. Great episode. Just
Super good. The
uh
best. The best.
I'm not close, in my opinion, for best episode of Enterprise we've watched so far. Not close.
It's a solid horror. There's good Star Trek continuity. There's good sci-fi. There's great character portrayals. It doesn't drag.
It increases the stakes of like they're in this part of space that obviously has horrific effects on people. It creates a conundrum they have to solve later. You've got a character who's been through some serious shit. Yeah, like I can't think of a substantial flaw with this episode, to be honest
This
with you.
episode is a sore thumb in its greatness. It is so far beyond almost anything else that we have seen. Like, there's some cool like character builders or like lore builders, like the Klingon courtroom drama, but like this is peak action Star Trek without sacrificing any Star Trek. It's gonna be a hard one to top, and we're gonna be going into season 3, episode 6, Exile, to try and do so. Exile, I'm seeing a picture of what looks like the fucking Death Star, written by Phyllis Strong. No Mike Sussman mentioned. Interesting. Directed by Roxanne Dawson. So this is going to be very sexy.
Fact check crew, yeah.
It's going to be either very sexy or somehow X-rated.
It's filled with cum.
Cum and a need to fuck. Hoshi is contacted by a mysterious telepath who offers to help the Enterprise in its mission. ... For a price. Well, if it's a Roxanne episode, that price is probably going to be the butt. You remember this one, Joe?
I do. Let's say that's a strict tonal difference from what we just went through.
Did they just use up all the good in season 3? Front half?
No, there's plenty good. Oh, there's so much good to come. But
yeah, it's a Roxanne episode.
All right, that's it. We're out. Hard out. Just for that, I hope some small Picard spoiler comes your way in the algorithm.
Yeah.
Talk to you later.